Let's get to our first caller. We have Maggie calling from Canada. Maggie, welcome to Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Oh, not a whole lot. How are you guys today?
Doing great, Maggie. Thanks so much for calling the show. Appreciate it. How can we help you?
So, I am an atheist, and I have a question about an argument I heard for the afterlife, and I wasn't really sure how to respond to it. Some friends and I, we're doing a very Canadian thing. We're out, having a kayak canoe trip up north, and they were talking about afterlife, and one of the fellows there brought up an argument about two babies talking in the womb, and how one of them was saying, I guess they were twins, one of them was saying how he thought this was all there is, so they should just live it up and, do whatever they're doing in there. And the other baby was saying, well, no, I think there's more after this. And of course, then they're born. And the second baby was right. So ergo, equal, there's an afterlife.
Yeah, this is Pascal's wager. Have you ever heard of Pascal's wager before, Maggie?
I have, and that's what I thought. It's pretty simple,
right?
Way of looking at things. But I just did not know how to respond to this.
Yeah, I mean, JL, you look like you're dying to respond to this.
I mean, it's really simple. I mean, I have a tendency to go a little bit long in the kind of description, like who Blaise Pascal was. He was born and raised a Catholic, and he was a mathematician, philosopher, stuff like that. But the wager in and of itself automatically falls flat for a number of reasons. But it's predominantly Pascal failed on that because he was assuming there was only one possible God, that there was this one God that existed, and the framework that was built around that God was what was true. The problem with the wager is that it ignores all logical possible other gods and other possible afterlives that follow along with those gods. And so it's utilizing fear, the fear of the hell thing, in order to reinforce the kind of like push to accept this thing is true, because you might lose out. And he was trying to use his understanding of mathematics to kind of like reinforce that, but his starting position was completely fallacious. There's no point going forward with that. And like I said, Pascal, I can see why he went there, but there's a lot of problems with it.
Yeah, I mean, for many of us, the atheist position isn't necessarily, I don't think an afterlife exists, right? Or it's definitely not real. It's we don't know, right? That's also fine as well. And I think that's the most honest thing you can say. I can point to like, well, I have a physical body, and that seems to be, my conscious experience seems to be reflective of my material world. So if I get my head hit, I'm going to like have a different personality, or if, something else happens to me that seems to affect who I am. So there's something that ties me to material world that makes me skeptical of it. But by and large, like, JL said, there's multiple ideas about the afterlife. Maybe one of us could be right about it, but like, unless we have a way to really evaluate that, it's kind of pointless. There's no real reason to pick one over the other.
The thing that gets me about the analogy, or I guess the example that you were given, or the argument, it wasn't even really an argument, but the thing that you were given was, you have two entities, you have two agents that are in an enclosed system, and they are working with the information that they have. If one of the babies says, I think that this is all there is, because they're in the womb, and then you have the other one saying, no, I think that there's something beyond this. Well, it's really malformed, because you have one who is, all they have is the information they have to go off of. Well, where is one getting information from to justify their claim that there is something beyond that? They must be getting information from somewhere, and they're making a claim about there being something else. Well, if the other one's not getting the information, then obviously there's a break somewhere. So the question that would be, well, where are you getting the information to tell you that there's something after this? Well, I'm hearing noises outside, or light occasionally, or whatever, something of that nature, but that those questions are never answered. That's why it's weird little arguments like that, or like little examples like that are worded specifically to bake you into a corner And I've never found them very, very helpful, because the minute you start asking questions, they start falling apart. The minute you like that's why critical inquiry is so important. And I'm pretty sure that you're very much aware of that. That like the minute you start poking at it, it falls apart like tissue paper. So you can always, whenever you go to dive into those, whenever someone presents something, never be afraid to inquire, get more details, you know?
Because if they're going to spread propaganda, you might as well too, or at least you know give some room for discussion. But I don't know, Maggie, we've been talking for a while. What do you think?
Well, yeah, and I agree with what JL said, because that's where my mind went. Is like, what are their points of reference? Because they have nothing to go by. I guess besides, you did bring up noises outside, but that's kind of what I thought. I said, you know, to myself, like, what are they basing their opinion even on?
Right.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It was like, need more data. Yeah,
because I guess maybe I was shocked. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't follow. Obviously, I get that, but yeah, we need more data is what it is. We need more data, so we need to make sure that we don't. It's
hard. Yeah, that's first of all, that's a great T-shirt, JL.
Thank you.
Say, for those who are listening in the audio, he has a shirt that says "That wasn't very data-driven of you," which is fantastic. Gotta say, 10 out of 10. But yeah, no, Maggie, it's hard because it's like you don't want to be that person in the social situation that starts a whole debate, right? And maybe they just meant it as a one-off, but maybe that person is looking for a debate and that's why they said it. So I don't know. It kind of goes both ways. You got to kind of read the room with these things, right? But
I'll always be that person.
JL's gonna be that guy. JL's gonna be that guy. I'm not saying you have to be that guy, Maggie or girl or whatever you identify as. I'm just saying, there's a stereotype for the atheist community for a reason. and
I left my fedora somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. But isn't it annoying when you're kind of right or better than some people in the room and you kind of have to pretend like you don't? I don't know. It's one of those things, right? Because that's definitely that's like a boomer Facebook meme of like two babies like in the womb. I don't know. That's what that makes me think of. But yeah.
But I didn't really want to start an argument at the time because we were in the middle of nowhere for 3 days.
Right.
So
that's another good point because you were kayaking up in the north in Canada, and you know what? You need to stay secure to your lifelines. I get it.
Yeah. They'll say, you don't believe in afterlife. We're gonna let you drown over there.
Yeah, we're gonna have him meet the afterlife. You're about to find out, right? Yeah, I could see that happening too. So.
Thanks very much. I didn't want to take up too much of your time, but I've just been thinking about it but I like that. I'm gonna go re-look up Pascal's wager and make sure I have it all straight in my head now.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
We love it. Well, great call, Maggie. Anything else you want to ask us or tell us before we let you go?
No, that's everything. I've been watching your show, Dan, for quite a long time, and this is the first time I've called in, so yeah.
Yes, I love that, Maggie. Thanks for calling in. Oh, that makes me happy. I hope you got what you needed, and it sounds like JL was the perfect guest. So there you go. She liked your answer. I did too, actually, because I mean, what I can't even add to it. What am I supposed to say? Yeah.